In the mid-1980s, we were introduced to the independent comic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, a violent and action-filled comic that was equal parts spoof and homage to things like the X-Men, Teen Titans, and Daredevil. Fast forward to the late 80s, and that independent comic became a cultural phenomenon with the debut of the animated series, which of course led to licensing rights and video games. Today, we are going to take a look at the visual history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is Pixel Evolution.
Before we begin, about 80% of you have not subscribed to the channel yet that are regular viewers, so be sure to do so down below if you haven't done so already. And I almost didn't make this video because of this 1989 game from Ultra. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the game I just straight up dislike. But you can't quit on the series with the first game. And as much as I do dislike playing this game, there's a lot to appreciate visually. It's 100% inspired by the '88 Ninja Turtles animated series. You've got the signature colors of the animated series Turtles on a fairly large for the time sprite of the characters. I mean, sure, it's not a one-to-one correlation, but the design is there where you can see it, and you won't question if you're playing a TMNT game or some other miscellaneous side-scrolling platformer for the NES. Even the enemies look great, with the Mousers in particular that you fight throughout the game being true enough to form to know exactly what it is that you're battling. Where the NES game from 1989 was an excellent first effort, our minds were blown when we went to the arcades and saw this 4-player spectacle for the first time. Not only did this look like a version of the cartoon come to life, it felt like an episode of the show that none of us had ever seen before. With huge, expressive characters, there's no question that this game leaned heavily into the animated series for its design cues. Between each turtle looking incredible, the game also presented you with an army of foot soldiers and random Foot Clan Dimension X baddies to oust, and they all look amazing. Of particular note are the boss sprites. Just try and look at Rocksteady here and not instantly be taken aback when he says, "Pay your bread, Turtle." As great as the arcade release looked, the NES game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game released in 1990, was no slouch either. Pushing the 8-bit console to its limits, the NES game featured huge sprites, big action, and shockingly longer levels than its arcade counterpart. While the first NES game looked good, this one was jaw-dropping. Each turtle felt like they had a personality and that you were actively controlling the cartoon, as opposed to just participating in a video game. Sure, the visuals might be a step down from the arcade, but this was an incredible thing to experience firsthand as a kid. And to play it multiplayer was even better. Amazing look, amazing game. When I got the original Game Boy, one of the games I played the most often outside of Tetris and Motocross Maniacs was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan, which released in 1990. I love this game. So much so that honestly it was the first game I beat in 2021. I popped it into my GBA SP and had an absolute blast sitting on the couch playing a 30-year-old game while Meredith was busy assassinating fools in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It is shocking how good this game looks. Your character is massive in comparison to the screen size, and unlike the NES game from the year prior, you can tell without question that this is undoubtedly a TMNT game inspired by the animated series, rather than having to squint to convince yourself that those were the turtles in the original NES game. Even the never-ending waves of enemies looked good. Sure, some are a little weird, with the little propeller dudes looking like they just popped out of an episode of Rescue Rangers, but there's no question you're fighting foot soldiers. The game plays and looks incredible. As great as Fall of the Foot Clan looked, 1991's Back from the Sewers just looks off. Like, you can tell this is a Ninja Turtles game, right? Like, there's no question that this is a Ninja Turtles game. But this is like the Dollar Tree version of Ninja Turtles games. I mean, I can be talked into that being a Foot Clan member, but I could just as easily be talked into that being a random gray alien, or just some random kid that the Ninja Turtles beat up in an awful spirit Halloween ninja costume. Where the first Game Boy game had personality, this one just lacks it. It's got flat design and execution all around. It's okay, but it's not great. So I said this in my Konami tier maker video I did a few months ago, but 1991's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project, to me, is just a mess of small visual issues that just keep adding up to a big pile. Let's start with the main turtle sprites. There's a ton of detail points missing from the sprites this go around. Let's look at Donnie here. His bow staff in the first TMNT, the arcade game, had detail markings on it. And in Manhattan Project, it's just an orange blob. In the first game, the turtles felt taller and leaner. In this, they're squatter and more stout. In-game, your avatar will be wearing a distinct color, yet in the interface, the turtles all wear red. There's also fewer frames of animation compared to the arcade game. I don't want to imply this is a massive failing because it's not, but to me, when I'm just looking at the game and experiencing it, there are all these things that just stick out to me as I'm playing. It's an annoyance, and it's just something I cannot get past the look of this game. I maintain to this day that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, is up there with the SNES version of The Adventures of Batman and Robin as far as being some of the most well-animated games on the platform. Unlike the NES port of the arcade game, Turtles in Time doesn't make any visual sacrifices from the arcade port to the home port. Huge sprites, massive levels, and we can't forget the ability to throw enemies at the screen, a theme that would repeat several times over the course of the Turtles' history in games. One of the many things I love about this game is the massive krang you get in the first stage trying to laser you back to the swamps. The game just doesn't miss visually. Some of Konami's best work, but not better than the next game on the list. And as much as I love Turtles in Time, 1992's Hyperstone Heist trumps it in nearly every way visually. The Turtles all have a ton of personality in this game. They feel like their cartoon counterparts. And it doesn't hurt that the level designs are leaps and bounds ahead of Turtles in Time. But the thing that gets me the most is the richness of the color in this game. It feels more natural and more visually appealing to me based on the shading and color work of each character in the game. Look here. When Raph attacks this foot soldier, you can clearly see the shading on his leg and the demarcation segments on his shell, and the shadow cast on the back of his head and bandana. The game is gorgeous. Continuing a weird trend comes 1993's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Radical Rescue on the Game Boy. Yet another visually distinct Turtles game for the handheld. I can't quite figure out what it is about this one that I like more than Back from the Sewers, because when I look at it, I don't actually think the main character sprite is that much better. And I don't think the enemy design is that much better either, and the stage design certainly leaves a lot to be desired. But for some reason, this just feels more like a Ninja Turtles game to me than Back from the Sewers does. I think it has something to do with them leaning fully into the weirdness of cartoon physics. Like look, they let Mike fly using his nunchucks, and there's also some really subtle and excellent shading on the character sprite. I don't know if that's it, but that's the only thing I can think of right now. I know this one just clicks more for me than Back from the Sewers did. I am honestly of two minds on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters for the Genesis, which released in 1993. On the one hand, I really appreciate that they're going after their own distinct visual style for the game and actually kind of stepping away from what the animated series was doing. The character select screen in particular is a great example of what I'm talking about here, as well as the designs in game themselves. But what doesn't work are those distinct visual styles. This is the worst of 90s design elements for characters. Everyone just feels unnecessarily edgy and hardcore, with weird twisted grins on the character select screen. It just feels off for some reason. I mean, the designs we got, whether I like them or not, move and look really good in the game. There's hellacious levels of detail on each sprite with fantastic shading and coloring for each turtle. I mean, it looks good, it just looks really weird. I know most game companies don't want to hear this, but sometimes leaving money on the table is a good thing. Take, for example, 1994's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter for the NES. You can use any of the 4 turtles in the game, but the game itself moves slowly, looks bad, and doesn't play great either. I get that they're really limited on what they can do with an NES cart, which is why we got the fighting game we did. I do appreciate that each turtle is their own shade of green to help distinguish them on screen, but overall, the game is just kinda there. Repeated sprites with a recoloring job does not a great visual make. And then for 9 years, things went dark. With their popularity fading and no animated series on television or toy line on shelves, why make a video game? So when things returned in 2003, games came back with a vengeance. With the debut of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series on 2003 and Fox Kids, video games were a natural fit to follow. After all these years, Konami maintained the license and produced 2 games in the inaugural year of the freshman animated series. The first, called, shockingly, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, shown here on the Game Boy Advance, featured some great sprite work and animation sequences. The turtles felt dangerous and aggressive, with sharp lines and huge muscles. They moved fluidly with great animation interstitials when attacked or while attacking. This is a great opening salvo for the new animated series, but nothing was as good as what came next. The first game released featuring 3D Ninja Turtle models from Konami was 2003's, again shockingly named Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was visually stunning, featuring fully animated interstitials between stages and cel-shaded character models that looked like they stepped out of the cartoon. The game was jaw-dropping to see in 2003, and it honestly still looks good even by today's standards. One of my favorite little bits here is with Michelangelo. If you notice, as he walks, he twirls his nunchuck, showing a bit of personality and flair that would have been lost on previous generations. I also really like that each turtle is immediately identifiable and identical to their animated series counterpart. This just looks fun. It plays fun. It is fun. It's something that Konami had lost for a little while, and this game brings it back so well. In 2004, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Battle Nexus, which was the second game based on the Fox Kid animated series, and continued its strong performance for this generation of consoles. The character models continue to look amazing, with fun animations and personality built in for each turtle. The cell shading continues to be on point, although slightly more toned down in this game than the previous one. The enemies in the game are also particularly strong, with Foot Clan and Mouser enemies looking amazing. There's something slightly different in play here from the first game from a visual perspective. Things look a little bit smoother, for lack of a better term, rounder and less edgy. It's a bit of a departure from the animated designs, but it still works and it's still incredibly strong. As a longtime Ninja Turtles fan, getting honest to Krang Triceratons in my 2003 game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Mutant Nightmare, was a thrill. Our third game on this generation featuring a Fox Kid animated series property once again looks, honestly, predictably at this point, fantastic. All four turtles are featured on screen at the same time in this game, something that would be revisited several times in ensuing years, adding even more benefit to the different shades of green each turtle has on their skin tone. Also, in an interesting mix of the previous two games, the models are again just slightly different than the previous game. This time less round, with more jaggedness to their appearance. This is probably the most one-to-one interpretation of the 2003 animated series that was released. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a ton to say about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Mutant Nightmare on the DS. Visually, it's pretty close to the GBA game that was based on the 2003 animated series. The turtles still look good with strong design choices and great animations for their models. But where the game especially excels are with the enemies. Once again, I get my Triceratons to beat up, and they look great. In 2005, we got TMNT Mutant Melee, which was the final game based on the 2003 animated series, as well as Konami's last run with the property. And to their credit, they didn't phone it in from a character and visual perspective. Now, from a gameplay point of view, that's another story entirely. It's a pretty bad game. But in-game, the turtles themselves, their allies, and the enemies all look really nice, utilizing solid cell shading techniques and great colors and texture work. The attack animations look fantastic, and there's enough variety to keep you interested visually. The game does fall apart a bit from a visual perspective, unfortunately, though, when you look at things like the stage design and the victory poses at the end of each level. It's an uninspired environment you fight in, and the victory pose shows some of the weaknesses of the character models as it's zoomed in a lot closer than what you see in the game with the camera being pulled so far back. In 2007, there was a new CGI animated movie called simply TMNT, and that brought a renewed design aesthetic to the Turtles, and, for the first time, a new developer handling their adventures. Ubisoft debuted with a well-designed, but ultimately very easy game. The characters looked like they were lifted right out of the film, and the game follows the plot of that movie, meaning you not only get to play Leonardo in his jungle cloak at the start, but you also get Raph in his secret vigilante getup. And I think we can all agree that the gigantic turtle dressed like a gigantic armored turtle is one of the worst disguises in superhero history. While the home console version of the TMNT game followed the events of the film, 2007's TMNT GBA game said, "Screw it, I'm gonna do my own thing." We do get to see Raphael in his vigilante garb at the start, but for the most part, we're treated to a beautifully animated and designed brawler. The turtles look great, making the transition from 3D model to 2D sprite look effortless. They exude personality with interesting attack animations and walk cycles, and let's not overlook how great the enemies look as they're being attacked. The game honestly just looks fantastic and really shows off the strengths of the Game Boy Advance. And then in 2009, Ubisoft hired a bunch of Smash Bros. Alumni to make a fighting game based on the Turtles, and thus, TMNT Smash Up was born. And while I could sit here and tell you repeatedly how this game is just a myriad of great ideas with really horrible execution, I'm going to focus instead on the visuals. Utilizing the same models from the previous Ubisoft home console games, Smash Up honestly presents a collection of characters that look great, animate beautifully, and are true to their source material. And the stages themselves are huge and varied. There's honestly very little to take issue with from a visual perspective. I think the game looks good, and I really wish I could tell you it plays good, but it does not. I don't have a lot to say about 2009's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade Attack from Ubisoft on the DS, so I want to focus in instead on the cutscenes. The gameplay is pretty average, it's just a kind of a beat 'em up. but the cutscenes are stunning. They feature gorgeous art from Kevin Eastman in the original black and white appearance of the comics. Honestly, for someone who's a comic book fan like me and loved the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, this is just a visual treat, and it feels like a gift that Ubisoft gave me. It's my favorite part of the game, so that should tell you something about how it plays, but the look of the cutscenes in between levels is spectacular. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows is kind of weird to me. I mean, it's called Out of the Shadows, and I would have expected this to fall in lockstep visually with the movie of the same name. Instead, we got kind of an interesting hybrid. These are sort of those character designs, but without the extraneous gear and extra design elements. As such, the game actually looks pretty good. The turtles are big and move well, and the lighting in the game is honestly spectacular. There's a ton of reflections off the turtle shells and skin. I kind of like the more realistic look of the characters here, I'm not gonna lie. But then again, I'm also the guy that didn't hate those new Ninja Turtles movies. They were Ninja Turtles movies, like I wasn't expecting art. We got the interestingly named Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And first off, it's criminal we only got 2 games based on the 2009 animated series for home consoles. And it's even more criminal that one of them was this pile. It's so bad. I mean, sure, it looks okay in stills, but the game is just a drag when it's in motion. The turtles are stiff and lifeless, and their attacks are stilted and blasé. The fast-paced, frantic nature of the animated series this is based on really deserved a game with a developer who had a vision for it or gave a damn, rather than just a 4-player boring beat-em-up that doesn't work half the time. I mean, you miss on your attacks when you're standing right next to the foot soldiers. Luckily, the sequel was much, much, much better. Okay, I promise when I set out to do this video, I had no clue that WayForward had done a Turtles game, so if you're sick of me talking about WayForward, this was completely accidental. And good lord, are they the perfect developer to take on this masterpiece of an animated series. 2014's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Danger of the Ooze has everything that was missing from the first game. The turtles move like the characters from the series they're based on. The game is full of life. The attacks are fast and frantic. The colors pop off the screen. The game is punctuated with actual animated cutscenes from the team that did the series. It's a gorgeous Metroidvania featuring the lean green ninja team from the masters of that game's style. You cannot get better than this. This is 100% a hidden gem for the Xbox 360. One other thing I really appreciate about WayForward's attention to detail with this game is the press start screen. They redid the cover of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game from the NES, which in itself was a tribute to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 4 that Kevin Eastman drew. It's fantastic. As of January 2021, I am pretty sure that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan, which came out in 2016, is the only game I know of featuring the Turtles that wasn't based on the animated series or film. And man, did Platinum clearly have a blast making this game. Unique character designs abound, with a really neat blend between the realism from the Out of the Shadows universe and the personality of the 2009 animated series, and Platinum's own distinct love affair with huge, gorgeous animation sequences. You've got a recipe for greatness here. I'm actually really bummed I didn't pick this up on the Xbox One or PS4, as it is a visual dynamo, and as much as I enjoy it on the 360, it would look that much better on a more powerful console. Featuring all 4 turtles on screen at once in a huge Manhattan map with big animations and bold colors, this game is definitely one to track down and play. And finally, we return to 2017's Injustice 2 from NetherRealm, which brings us full circle back to nearly the beginning of what these games were based on. These are clearly designs based on the first live-action film, as you can see here with Raph walking in wearing his trench coat and fedora disguise. The character models look incredible, and I love that you can change out the weapons in your loadout from jump to bounce between whatever turtle you want to use at any time. I'm going to switch between Raph and Donnie pretty much all the time. There's so much to love here, from the large splotches on their skin to the big fun animations, to Mikey retreating into his shell upon defeat. But the pièce de résistance, of course, is the victory pose. Pizza's the food that's sure to please. These ninjas are into pepperoni and cheese.
My own personal history with the Ninja Turtles started in the mid-'80s with those original graphic novels. And while I had read those first, I was still in love with the animated series and the live-action movie when it came out, and I've played every video game that they've released. I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, and I always will be. For me personally, my favorite appearance of the Ninja Turtles was their Nickelodeon series from the mid-2010s. I loved that series. It was funny, it was well written, and it was smartly designed. But now let me know in the comments down below what your favorite visual appearance of the Ninja Turtles is from video games. Guys, we'll be back next month with another installment of Pixel Evolution, where we actually look at our first original video game character with the Pixel Evolution of Star Fox. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Let us know you enjoy the content we're creating, and if you're new to the channel and have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we've got going on. Until next time, guys, I've been Jay. I appreciate you being here and giving us a little bit of your time. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.